Hello everyone, and welcome to the Harvey B. Gantt Center's Family First, Arts from a Distance. For today's workshop, we will be using text as an art form with exhibiting artist Rosa Nade Garmendia. Let's get creative. We hope you enjoy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's virtual Family First workshop. I'm very excited to be here with everyone today. My name is Rosa Nade, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist and an activist born in Havana, Cuba, and I live and work in Miami. I'm really happy to be here with you today. I'll be taking questions through the workshop. You can use the chat feature to ask any questions as we move along today. And you will also get the opportunity to share on camera what you've made as part of this workshop. So we're going to focus on text, on phrases as an art form. So we're going to create some kind of positive statement or a phrase, and it could be about yourself, your family, your community. And as we're thinking about what phrase or text you're going to choose, I want to share some works of art that I have used text in so that we can look at materials and think about materials and phrases. For example, in this particular detail, I used tape to spell out the words, and I used colored pencils. There's a series that I did about using phrases and text where I used nails, tacks, and they were installed directly onto the walls, actually hammered onto the wall. So in this case, it spells out courage. These are just some things to think about. Also, text can be used to tell stories. And here I used text and drawing and photographs from magazines. It's part of a series titled Liberty Flags as Protest Signs. More recently, as it was mentioned earlier, this is the work of art that's currently at the Gantt Center. It's part of the exhibition titled Intersectionality, Diaspora Art from the Creole City. And here's a detail where text is used to name and record the lives of African-American men, women, and youth that have been lost at the hands of police. The bricks are painted and individualized using spray paint and stencils. Okay, let's get started. Let's think about a statement. And I'm sharing some ideas with you here. It could be present tense. It could be very personal and specific to your experience and your dreams and desires. I have some that you can choose from here. You can come up with your own. And let's move right on to materials. So really, working from home, materials, we could use anything that we have. I love working with colored pencils, markers. We are going to need some maybe glue sticks and scissors. But if you don't have scissors, you can tear. If you have stickers or anything colorful, you can, think about what you have at home. I also have tape, little pieces of fabric. And maybe you don't have to use the fabric, but you can be inspired by the colors or the patterns in the fabric. So I'm hoping that you're gathering your materials so that you can work with, and it could be as many as you like or as few. And along the way, you can decide what you use. I also just want to show you different styles of fonts that you can think about. Blocky and heavy, depending on what you want to say. They can also be more poetic and lyrical with more organic shapes like circles. They could be thin lines or thick lines, and you can make them yourself. If you have stencils, if you have magazines, you can actually cut out words. So I just want to show you some possibilities. For today's, my phrase that I chose good trouble. I wonder if anyone knows where that's from, if anybody has heard that recently. So you may have heard of it recently. Congressman John Lewis, who recently passed away. And I was inspired by a talk that he gave about how he was influenced by Rosa Parks and getting involved in the civil rights movement, and how his parents used to tell him not to get into trouble, but there's good trouble also. So I chose good trouble for my phrase and my text today. And I started with magazines and the letter G, and it turns out that I have a letter G in a stencil form. So I was lucky to use that. As my starting point. But if you don't have stenciled, you can make it yourself. You can look through magazines or just draw freehand. So I cut out the letter G to start. And I liked it from this particular magazine because the magazine had a dark, dark black color. At the same time, it had some shiny grays in the bottom. So I thought, hey, let's combine that. Let's try that today. Next, I had to figure out how to spell out the O's, right? So I have a cup at home. You may have things in your kitchen or at home in your room. So I decided to use the plastic cup for the O's, to make the circles. And you could do it freehand. Think about where you want to lay it in your paper. I decided to put it sort of like this, only 2 words, good trouble. And I suggest if you're gonna cut out anything from the magazine, any paper tear, not to glue them just yet. Try arranging them differently in different places before you commit to its placement. So I did both of my O's. And you know, in art, we don't always have to follow grammar, right? So I did a little O with the narrower part of the cup, and with the broader part of the cup, I did a larger O. And that works for me. That way they're not the same size and it's more interesting. And then the letter G. So I had a protractor around. So I figured, okay, the D is going to be large. I'm hoping that you have gotten your phrase. And if you didn't come up with a phrase, you could we can experiment. You could try one word, and it could be any word. And try some materials. We can see this as also an experiment, and not necessarily finished. It could be the beginning of something that you do later. I also had around some glitter that were circular shapes. So I decided to start to place some of my materials in different areas of the paper. You may have some construction paper that you could cut up. Maybe you can start to color, decide on what colors. So far, I've decided on this color palette. And maybe later on, I'm going to change it. I wanted to show you a little bit of how I approach the 2 circles, the 2 letters O. I have some black tape, so I decided to tear up the black tape in little pieces and fill in the O. One of the O's, and cut out So you tear, if you don't have, I love to tear tape or paper because, it's not straight lines, it's more organic. And you can try that. You can also color in. So collaging is part of a way to make art. So some of you asked about that. It's just another way you can color in, you can paint. And collaging, I really like collaging because you can just tear existing, if there's a color already you see in a magazine or a book, and instead of reproducing it, you just sort of cut it out and use it, integrate it into your work of art. And it's a little bit of what I'm doing here also, because it saves time and I like the look. So I'm showing you here a little bit of how I am progressing. You'll see that the D, some of the paper I had at home, and you'd be surprised. At home, we have a lot of different things that can be used. Newspapers, old letters, books, magazines. So I had this little bag. It was a present at some point, and it had these black circles, and I wasn't using it anymore. So I decided to cut out every little black circle as a way to work on my D instead of coloring that in. And you can decide also how you're going to work on your background. So far, most of my background is in white, but you can decide and think about how your phrase relates to the colors you're going to use. Maybe someone can share, they've already have a phrase or a word. Maybe in the chat, you can let me know a word or a phrase as someone would like to share that they've chosen for today before we continue. I was trained as a painter and I love to draw and to paint. I decided not to use paint today, but you guys can also use paint. Paint, water-based paint covers well and quickly if you don't use too much water. I used paper. And I want to show you a little bit of how I decided to do the trouble part just to do it freehand. I couldn't find any other tools to help me make it in the right size. And I really love to sketch, to draw. So I'm just sketching, sort of crosshatch the background. And filling out. And the crosshatching has different texture. It looks with a drawing, the crosshatch going one way, the crosshatch going another way, helps it to look interesting. So this, when you're using colored pencils, it could take a little time to do that. It takes a little time to draw in the background. And for so far, I've decided to keep my palette reduced. Just black and white, some shiny metallic colors, but I'm thinking that I might want to add some color pretty soon. So as you decide on your phrase, your word, the colors that you use, some people like to start using colors that they like. Like green is my favorite color, but I don't necessarily use it all the time. You can decide that your phrase is really positive. And one of the phrases I had was like, I am a little sunshine. So you can add maybe a lot of yellow to your work of art, or natural colors, of colors from nature. I decided at this point that I did want to add some colors. And I was inspired by a little piece of fabric that has lines like this, colorful lines. And decided to use colored pencils on my O and add color to my thus far black and white image. Someone was asking a question. How did you age the font on the bricks? Cool. As you're working, thank you for asking that. So I wanted to give a look of age and as if the bricks had been left outside and weathered through rain or sunshine. So I did that through paint, adding as I painted the bricks. First, I lay out the names, and I start to paint. I chose 6 different colors, and I layer. I'll spray paint, add water, add some other materials, let it dry, add another color, and so it gives it that sort of weathered look. But it's something that, as an artist, is something I do and I accelerate. Thank you for asking that. So I'm hoping that you have chosen your phrase, that you've already got the materials that you're going to use, and that you've started to lay out your phrase. And maybe we can hear a little bit of music in the background as we start to color, to shade. Because sometimes, music can be really relaxing. Yay, thank you for that. Oh, and that music can be very cool. I like it. Thank you so much. So, creating and making art can be relaxing. It can be very engaging. It could help us feel better as a way of expressing ourselves. And let's see if I can use my gooseneck phone to show you. Okay, cool. Because as we're thinking and I'm working, I wanted to show you what I spoke about earlier. This pattern paper that I used, and I just cut out a whole bunch of them and decided arrange them in a particular way. And I'm going to go back.
The music too loud.
I'm going to go back.
So, can you still hear her talk?
Can you hear me? So in the D, I decided to use these. I cut out a whole bunch because also, we don't have that much time. Even though you shouldn't feel rushed, and you can start this process. And even though we're going to share at the end where we're at, you can finish it later on. So I cut a whole bunch of these out and I placed them on my D. Also, I showed you earlier some colors. This is a little piece of fabric I had, and I really like the lines on the color, so I tried to imitate it in some way. And there's different ways you can handle the background. I left mine white for the most part, but you could create your own patterns, and patterns are easy to create. If you have any straight line, for example, you could and it doesn't have to be a ruler, you could use a book. You can create a pattern of lines behind your text. You can create squares and color them in for a background. If you're deciding to go more of the collage route, you can also cut little pieces of paper. So I really like shading, and shading can be challenging because it depends on the pressure of your hand. So I like to shade. And when you shade in different directions, you press and you let go of your hand a little bit. You can get darker and lighter. So you can create any kind of pattern for your background. You can also do a solid color um, with markers if you want to do that. And if you have tape, sometimes we don't, but I love colored tape because colored tape, you could do so much with it. Maybe some of you have colored tape at home. If you don't, maybe at another time you can. So I like to tear. So you see the little O, I just tore up little pieces of tape to create that design. And you could try different things for the background. I'm going to go ahead and show you. We're going to go back to the shading. And in the shading, freehand drawing letters is difficult. But I like when you use just freehand and you draw on your own, I think it really, your personal traits come through. So as you can see, my text is kind of rough. It's not smooth. It's very different than the G that I used for good. And good, if you think about it, straight forward and supposed to be, within a certain limit. But when we talk about trouble is a little looser, and especially when it's good trouble, So I think I didn't think of it consciously, but I think it comes through that the sketchy look by using the crosshatch, it makes the letters a little bit uneven, and it makes it more organic and a little bit of more reflective of action, which is, I think, a little bit of what Congressman Lewis was talking about, how we get involved in important issues in the communities where we live and where we work. So it took me quite a little while to get the sketch, the background for good trouble. And I like shiny stuff, glitter, but I didn't have any glitter. The only thing I had was these little circles that are shiny. So I decided, let's add some glamour, right? Some glamour to good trouble. And let's see, because this is what it looks like so far. And when we're making art, there might be a time that you come and you think, oh, when do I stop, right? How do I know when I'm finished? And that is different for everyone. So I decided that I would stop there. And I'm going to share now. I wanted to give also some, let me fix this a minute because we want to be able to see it correctly, right? Especially since we're reading. Yeah, let me scoot it over a bit. So, because I may want to add, if you notice, I added some black tape on the edges because I wanted to give it a frame of sorts. You can think about that also, adding a way to enclose the space. You could do it by coloring. You could draw in a frame, something that's golden, or just lines. And I thought, okay, so now I think I'm pretty much finished with my text inspired phrase. And, there are many different ways to interpret. I'm kind of happy with how it looks. And you can see that at the end, I decided to add these little edges. I don't know what they look like to you. What does it look like to anyone who's looking? I decided to add that, and I kind of like it. It was an accident. Sometimes in art, accidents can happen. Sometimes they're good accidents and you can take advantage of them. And sometimes they're not so good and you decide, okay, no, I don't really want to do that. So these little things that are coming up here, they started, it was one, and it was sort of kind of like an accident. I thought, should I use that or should I not? And then I decided, yes, and not only am I going to use it, I'm going to add more. And now, what does it look like to you? Anyone who's in the chat, what does it look like? Because I get a very particular sense. We have the word trouble in the bottom. It's kind of very organic, a little bit like it's brewing. But remember, this is good trouble, right? And it makes me think of grass. I don't know about you guys. And I've decided that maybe this, I will stop here, and not add anything else. But as a matter of fact, I may want to add some color to the trouble, more color. What do you guys think? Perhaps. And sometimes, we have to work with what we have available. So my colored pencils seem to have taken a walk. But if I had my colored pencils with me now, I would actually color in. And remember I said green is one of my favorite colors? And the bottom of this starts to look like grass to me. So I'm going to color my trouble. And since I don't have my colored pencils, I'm going to use green tape that I have and just cut little bits and pieces. Because I've decided I want to add some more color to my design, my artwork. And I don't have to fill it in perfectly, right? I can, because, for me, art making is more organic, more about intuition, more about what I'm feeling today. And today I feel different than yesterday, and I'll feel different tomorrow. So today I thought I was finished with this design, but I've decided I'm going to add more color. And I'm going to add green, which is my favorite color. And because with my hands, I cannot cut really thin the tape, I'm going to use my scissors to cut a thinner piece of tape. One of the things I love about making art is flexibility, right? Sometimes in life, we cannot be very flexible because we're not allowed to be flexible. But in art, we have a lot of freedom that we can take advantage of, I think. And so I'm gonna color in the trouble. I hope that you guys have so far got your phrase. Oh yeah, what do you think? I think I like it with the colors in the bottom. So I put green on my T for trouble. And I'm gonna fill in my R also. And if I had some color pencils with me, which I seem to have misplaced, even though I'm in my studio, I would add some red, some blue. Colors have psychological meaning. And even though we're all different, we are part of the same human race and we have shared experiences. So, like, for example, the color red, a lot of people can think about similar things like an apple, love. What else can we think about when we think of the color red? And then some folks will have more particular ideas when they see a colors. Colors make us feel differently and depends how colors are put together and what color you put next to one another. Maybe we can get a little bit of that music, even though I like to talk when I'm working. But sometimes folks like to just listen to music when they're working because it's relaxing. Thank you. Yeah, just a little bit. So I've decided to fill in with the tape, green tape, both the T and the R. And now I'm thinking, what other colors do I have around here that I can add to my letters T, my letters O, U, B, L, and E? I wonder if anyone out there has any suggestions for me. Ooh, cool. Someone said, looks like feathers, grass. Someone said, looks like feathers. Also, okay, cool. So I'd like to talk a little bit, but the music in the background is good. I didn't think of feathers. That's kind of cool. Yes, thank you. And I wonder if anyone who's participating virtually would like to just share in the chat, what phrase did you use? As we're each working in our own individual pieces, or if you have any questions about a choice of color or how to use a particular material, you're welcome to ask in the chat. Peace is my aesthetic. Cool. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna get some red color that I have. I'm in my studio today. Breathe. Oh, I like that. Breathe. Great. It's a short word. Breathing. Yes. And I wonder, that makes me think of a lot of different things, right? And I'm sure everyone. So breathing is something we all have to do, and we all do subconsciously. I'll be curious later on to find out what colors you use for your design. And as creative people and artists, there's elements of design that we can think about: contrast, how we place things on a surface, whether it's a piece of paper or canvas. I decided to really spread mine in the paper. And I kind of did that a little bit subconsciously. And that's why I mentioned earlier, for those of you who are collaging, don't glue anything down till you're really happy. Try different ways of arranging your collage pieces. I'm going to get some colors. Because I really need to add some different colors to this trouble before we get any further. So blue is one. I really like blue. And because I was trained as a painter, I used to draw a lot. I spent a lot of time drawing, hours and hours, and I really enjoy drawing. And so I'm going to color my O blue, because blue makes me think of the sky. It makes me think of something clean, of the ocean. You guys know I live in Miami, but I'm originally from an island in the Caribbean. And blue is the color of the sky and the color of the water, and the water is transparent, but it reflects. So blue has a lot of happy images for me. So I decided to color the blue for the O for trouble. And you can see color changes everything. When you add color to something, it just really changes everything. I look for a real vibrant red. And I might even decide to leave one of the letters just white. But for now, I'm going to add some red. It's kind of a wine red. It's not a straight up red. It's not a carmine red. And if you have a lot of materials around you, you don't always have to use them all. Okay. A good thing for tape. Now I've changed my mind. I don't think I want to do the R green, so I can remove it. I'm gonna leave the R white and choose two other colors. So I'm coloring my last words. We're getting a little busy there, huh? I lost my gooseneck. There we go. I want to show you really what it so I got the green. I changed my mind about the R. I think I'm gonna leave the R white and the B, what color I should add. Maybe I should add some yellow. Because sometimes the colors that you choose and the lines, they all have repercussions in the way how they make people feel. When you make a straight line versus a crooked line or a curvy line. I may want to darken some areas. And it looks like we're almost sure. You get a sense of how it changed with the colors. And I hope that you can yeah, trouble. I like the yellow. And I may even want to darken some areas so you can read the R better. So this is time that you get as you work, You get to accentuate areas in your design, in your drawing. I want to accentuate, make the R more prominent than it was earlier. Yeah, you can see it more clearly. And the T, I'm going to go over some of my crosshatch. You know, making art takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of time. And you have to be willing to look at what you're doing and add and change the process. And today, this is fairly quickly, but usually artists can start a work of art and work on it for years. First, they have the idea, and then they have to maybe collect materials and try different things before they arrive at what they want to do exactly. So you have to be willing to try and maybe fail, and then try again in a different way. You definitely have to be flexible. And that's kind of cool. Okay. Let me continue with the yellow for trouble, for the B of trouble. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the colors have really changed now. The mood of this particular work of art. And color has a way of doing that, especially the colors that you use. Okay. Let's see. I have green. I have blue. I like that blue. The light blue. I have a kind of wine red, yellow. I think I want to make my L or my E to give it emphasis. I think I want to make my E black. Maybe brown. I don't think brown will show up really well. Ooh, maybe you can add, I know, let's bring some of that glitter back. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, you just have to look around what you have. And I'm gonna add the glitter, little circles, I'm gonna cut them for my L and add some glitter to my L. Yeah. One thing is as you work, you get ideas, right? You try one thing and that leads you to something else. And then that leads you to something else. And that's how kind of you develop the particular piece you're working on. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to bring some of that shiny texture, that shiny material to my trouble. Cool. I think that's good. Let me see. I have a little bit more. Okay, I hope you've gotten we haven't had a lot of time, but we got started. And in a little while, we'll start our showcase so we can share, we can all see, because I can't wait to see what words were chosen, what phrases, and how folks started to design the phrases. I might just be able to finish my last word. I want to use black. Yeah, and I have a marker, so I'm just gonna go. And this type of where you use different materials, media. I really like mixing media because I think it adds interest, visual, enticing visual. I like using different types of media. So I'm gonna do my E, yes, and black. I don't want my E to be straight. I want it to be somewhat. I mean, let some of the white in there. I don't have to take it up to the line. Yeah, how's that? Oh, I need my E to be stronger. Just feel like, yeah. How's that? Let's see if I can get the entire thing so you can see it. Good trouble, yes. Okay, cool. I think now thinking about it and looking at it, oh, I think I'm happy with it, except for one little thing. You know, there's always more you could do, but sometimes you just have to like stop, right? And because I used pencil here, I can add a little more white at that on that end. Oh yeah. And because we still have a few minutes, I can add a little bit of and make this a little darker at the edges so my L can really pop. Artists, as we're working, we need time to look and to reflect, to think about what we're doing, to compare, to imagine. Um, Time is very important. Time and resources too. Okay. I think my L is much better. You can see it. Yeah, great. Okay. I kind of like what I did, really. I love making art for fun. It relaxes me and it helps me express ideas that I may not be comfortable expressing verbally. I can do it through my artwork. Okay. In a couple of minutes, we're going to share what we made this morning, this afternoon. When you're using text as a part of a work of art, this I don't really have to title it. The title is obvious, but maybe I'd like to title it something different. Um, Even though the message for in this particular case, text is part of the message and it's pretty clear. Good trouble. Um, Maybe you guys can think about titles because titles are used in different way. Titles can be used to help the viewer um, know what the artist is thinking about. Or some artists like to leave their work untitled, which is totally fine. And I hope that you've been able to at least start some really cool stuff in this last hour that we've been together. And let's see, my my work really changed from what I thought was going to be my finished piece. But it changed from that. I like it. Okay, let's get started. Let's see what you've created. I'm really curious. I want to know the words that were chosen, the phrases, and how you approached color. Because, art is about communication. It's just different. Could be through music, visual arts, poetry. It doesn't matter if you're not finished because we really had very little time. So you could just show where you're at in the process so far. I know sometimes people can be shy about showing what they're doing, especially if they're not finished, but I think it's okay. You know, we're just here to share a little time to think about art. Um, so don't be shy. It doesn't have to be finished. We could just see where you're at. I'm really curious about the phrases and the words that folks chose today. Of course you can sketch your name. Yeah. What better yes, of course. What better word or phrase is your name? A lot goes into a name. Of course. And on a name, you can think about your future. Your word was magic. Okay, ooh, magic. Rashida, she chose magic as her word. Okay, no worries. We're good. We're patient. Technology is new for many of us. And some days it works better than others. It's all right. Yeah, choosing your name, that would be really cool because you can sort of think about all the things that you can be, that you are. And I know that someone earlier had said they chose the word breathe. And I really like that also. We can wait a couple of minutes to see if anybody wants to share what they. Hi, Ayola. We can't hear you, Ayola, but I'd love to hear. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, oh, I love it. Breathe. I love the colors that you chose. Very nice. So you chose a lot of piece of paper and you combined it with what?
So my daughter and I did it. She's being very shy. She's a teenager.
Oh, but that looks beautiful. And I love the size of the paper. It's really horizontal and long and breathe. I love it. It
So
looks great.
we use different things in the house to make the letters, but the E's were made using our fingers. So we put 3 fingers down.
That's a great idea. Wow, I'm going to use that.
And then so we're starting to finish the color around the letters. We didn't paint the letters.
Okay.
And then we're gluing fabric, and on top of the fabric, we're putting tissue paper, but we chose all blues.
Wow, I love it. Different shades is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Love that. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I really like that. I think that we can wrap up for today. I want to thank everyone for participating and for being patient with us getting started. I want to encourage everyone to continue to support this institution for the work that it does in celebrating and showcasing African American art and Afro-descendant artists is very important. And I want to thank you all for participating. I hope you learned something new. I hope you had a little fun. We were a little slow in starting, but thank you so much today. And I hope you have a good weekend, everyone.